Louisiana All American Sports Show. 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 Louisiana. If it's sports you want to talk about, then listen to the hottest show that's coming out the South. It's Eric Hatfield and Coach Perry Daniels, man. They're going to sit you down and tell you all about the game and make it plain. 96.9 FM, that's the station to hear the best sports talk show in the nation. Without hesitation, you should get with this and get your popcorn ready, boy, you better not miss Louisiana All American Sports Show. Louisiana All American Sports Show. Louisiana All American Sports Show. Louisiana. It's Joker P.
Ain't nobody dope as me. Good morning, Baton Rouge. Today is the final Saturday of 2014, and you are live with Eric Hatfield and Gerard Piper for the 52nd and final edition of Louisiana All American Sports on 96.9 FM WHYR-LP Baton Rouge Community Radio. Today is Saturday, December 27th, 2014, and I hope you all have had a Merry Christmas. This is Eric Hatfield.
This is Gerard Piper.
And we've got, of course, for the last time this year, another hour full of sports. So let's ain't nothing to it but to do it. But first, I hope everybody had a happy and safe and wonderful Christmas with family and friends. How did yours go for you?
Mine turned out pretty good, Eric. Thanks for asking. I want to say happy holidays to the Baton Rouge area that's out there. Also to Professor T. Johnson. You know, I'm going to miss your little lesson today. But I had a pretty good holiday. How about you?
Oh, you know, look, it was a good one. It's always good to spend a little time with family and friends. Mine was great. It's always a really nice Christmas.
A lot of food, you know.
Oh yeah. My folks always make sure to make sure we have a good and happy Christmas. Not a whole lot of breaking news on the high school front, but the East Baton Rouge Parish Tournament is taking place over the course of this weekend. There was, I'll tell you what, while we had a Merry Christmas, sometimes some strange things can happen, and there was actually a power outage during the game between Tara and Woodlawn. They wound up having to change locations in that game. Tara did, however, win that game over Woodlawn. They wound up having to play at the F.G. Clark Activity Center.
Wow.
It was a big old power outage. It was a really kind of a strange game. Also, the Bel Air Bengals, who we brought to you last Tuesday on LouisianaAllAmericanSports.com. Last Tuesday, they lost a close one to Central, a back-and-forth game. Well, they recovered as they defeated Capitol High 75-54, so a pretty big win over Capitol by Bel Air, kind of recovering. That was kind of what I expected to see the other night. They had a lot of trouble putting the ball in the hole against Central. They had no problem doing that as they racked up 75 points in this game. And also the McKinley Panthers were victorious, and we'll pull that score up for you in just a moment. But we have brought you a heavy dose of McKinley, and will continue to bring you a heavy dose of McKinley this year.
Yeah, boy.
And they absolutely throttled Baker. I mean, smashed them 80-42. Baker, well, I'll tell you how the mighty have fallen. There was a time when they were kind of a formidable foe in East Baton Rouge Parish, but it was real. Keon Brown and Keon Smart, the Keon connection, they combined for 26 points in that game. Keon Smart, of course, also, you've mentioned that name a few times. He is a very big left tackle for the McKinley Panthers football team. Well, also, he is he's also a committee to Tulane University, and good for him. Well, he might be able to help out their basketball team a little bit with his size, as the Panthers really handled Baker. A lot of slam dunks in that game, a lot of action if you are on the side of the McKinley Panthers.
Yeah, boy.
They will face Zachary next. Zachary absolutely pummeled Northeast 67-37. So the Zachary Broncos and McKinley Panthers will meet in, I believe that will be a quarterfinal matchup.
Quarterfinals, yeah.
In that one. So a lot of action going on in the EBR tournament. And if you are a fan of the prep action, it's a very good place to be. So I know we have I know, Piper, you got to be kind of excited about McKinley getting off to another good start. They've been a force to deal with. They're only 2 years removed from playing for the championship against Scotlandville back in 2012. So. Or 3 years removed. So this is a team that they have high expectations. They look like they're out to a pretty good start this year.
Yeah, we always have high expectations at McKinley because we're pretty prestigious when it comes down to the basketball. Football, on one hand, we kind of had a disappointing season this year. We started out good. I thought we had some bad decisions for us, the coaching and the style of play that they wanted to play.
Right.
But one thing you can always bet on, that's McKinley High basketball team. And so I'm excited to get the basketball season going. They're starting out real good. So, hey, man, I'm ready. I'm pumped up and charged and drunk me a monster today. I'm ready to go. Let's get it.
Other action taking place in high school basketball, Broadmoor versus Central. That game is actually taking place right now. I'm sorry, this is yesterday's schedule, so no, strike all that I just said. That is yesterday's news. So will be 4 more games now up to the quarterfinals. Quarterfinal round of the East Baton Rouge Parish Tournament. Also, of East Baton Rouge Parish Bob Pettit Coca-Cola Tournament, and that action will be taking place at the F.G. Clark Activity Center. So, on from high school, we have, of course, some collegiate action going on this week. Some games that might be of interest to us locally, like, the bowl game, the Music City Bowl, as the LSU Tigers get a chance to, salvage maybe a modicum of dignity and respect from what's been otherwise a disappointing season.
Yeah. Not good, man. Not good. Uh-oh. That's almost like, that music almost like an afterthought now.
It is. It's almost like, that was nice back then when LSU was relevant. Oh, boy. LSU Tigers have had one heck of an up and down season. There's just, there's really not a lot of, I don't know what to say. I mean, look, they're ranked 23rd right now. I think they've, despite having some ups and downs, they lost to Mississippi State. I don't think anybody had any idea how good Mississippi State was going to be at the time. The Bulldogs were number 1 for a very long time this season before finally losing pretty badly to Alabama and then to Ole Miss. They lost some games I don't think they expected. They had a big win over Ole Miss, who was at the time number 1 in the country. LSU was so Jekyll and Hyde.
They beat Wisconsin.
And came back from 17 points down. Look, LSU, there are 2 themes that are going to have to be corrected before next year. One, they just can't throw the football, and in the modern game, it's not 1899 anymore. You got to throw the ball forward in order to win. They can run the heck out of the ball, and they will. And don't be surprised if you see 35, 40 rushing attempts on Tuesday. But LSU simply can't throw the football. They got one guy who, in my opinion, can't throw, and that's Anthony Jennings. They have one guy who's got a rocket for an arm, but has had trouble all year just with the basic components of the offense. I'm talking about calling audibles, checkoffs at the line, snap, center exchanges, basic things that make a play start before you can show off that rocket arm.
Right. So what do you think? Do you think LSU Tigers this year, did they overachieve, did they underachieve, or do you think they did pretty much what you thought? I
expected, if someone told me at the start of the year they'd win 8 regular season games, I'd say I could buy that. I was thinking in the neighborhood of 9 wins, give or take a game, and that's where they landed. Notre Dame, I think, was a team with a bitter disappointment, really, of a season. They got off to such a great start. And then I'll tell you, the beginning of the end was the loss to Florida State. A game which, depending on your point of view, some could say that they probably shouldn't have lost, or it was a very questionable call that cost them the game. We can't go back in time, but after dropping that first game to Florida State, they only won 1 game for the remainder of the season. That was against Navy. I mean, they went up in smoke. Arizona State, that was a quality loss, but they were beaten by 24 points, 55-31. They lost to Northwestern in overtime. Nobody saw that coming. Louisville, decent team, and USC absolutely throttled them. So I'm kind of scratching my head, and I'm wondering, what Coach Kelly has going on, Brian Kelly has going on up there at Notre Dame. How do you get off to such a rapid start? You hammer, you really dominate a lot of games. They beat Stanford pretty convincingly, and then they just disappeared.
I don't know if they was the people overestimated them this year and kind of overranked them because sometimes that happens with a prestigious school like Notre Dame. Sometimes they get a little bit of higher ranking. But this year, I think after the Florida State game, after they lost that close game with the offensive pass interference call in the end zone, I think it's almost like a boxer that never lost before. And then when he gets defeated, it kind of, it's just like that loss with Florida State, by the way that it happened, it just seemed like it just took so much out of them, and they wasn't the same after that. Just, I don't know, maybe.
It must have.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because the thing is, they went blow for blow with Florida State all that time. It was thought of as, at the time, people were saying, well, that loss may not necessarily knock Notre Dame out of the picture at that time.
And they were ranked in the top.
They were ranked. Yeah, they were. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can find the ranking because it was a big matchup. It was two top 10 teams. I remember that at the time when Florida State won that game, 31-27 back on October 18th. Notre Dame was ranked 5th at that time. By the way, 225-343-9927, area code 225-343-9927 to join us today on Louisiana All American Sports. But so you have Notre Dame. I think they want to also salvage a modicum of dignity for their season, as LSU does. But you look at this, and both teams have some glaring weaknesses. I don't think Notre Dame's defense is very good. I don't think their offensive line is particularly great. I don't think they're a very tough team, and that showed down the stretch when they lost, 4 of their last 5.
Yeah.
LSU, on the other hand, I mean, look, they just got to get that passing game together. The defense is getting better every week. You have a lot of young guys in that defense, and they seem to be improving before your eyes. Every single week, I think. And the secondary, which got off to an awful start, as Coach Perry Daniels often referred to them as your horrible secondary, LSU. There was a word he used to use that wasn't horrible, it was something worse than that. It was abominable, it wasn't abominable, abysmal, whatever it was, he threw them under the bus, and early in the season it was fully justified. But LSU improved by leaps and bounds from top to bottom.
Yes, they did.
So I think Notre Dame's going to have a tough time scoring, unless they get some kind of a quirky play early in the game or something really goofy happens. I don't think they're going to have LSU's going to have a lot of trouble. I don't think they're going to be under a lot of duress against Notre Dame.
I don't think so either. I'm going to pick LSU in this game. I think that Golson, the quarterback for Notre Dame, he's kind of turnover prone.
He has proven to be that way.
Yes, man, he is. He started out good, though. I think last year he was off the field. He didn't.
Correct.
And so he came back this year with a mission, and he started out real good, and Notre Dame was doing good, but he's turnover prone, and so I think LSU with the defense has galvanized, and they've played better every single game. I mean, from Alabama to Ole Miss, these young guys, this young secondary to me has been stepping up. They came together real good. It just was on the offensive side, like you said, with the quarterback position that kind of was lackluster, but I'm picking LSU for this game. I think they beat Notre Dame.
I really like the growth that I've seen in that secondary. I mean, Tre'Davious White in particular is really you've just seen him kind of grow. A Beckwith, linebacker. He is all over the field. And looks like we have one of y'all want to get on the conversation. Of course, we're always happy to talk to you all on Louisiana All American Sports. And get a little more of you and a little less of us, of course. We have a caller on the line. You are on Louisiana All American Sports with Gerard Piper and Eric Hatfield. With whom are we speaking this morning?
Good morning. How you guys doing? Happy holidays to you guys and season greetings and all that stuff. Just old boss player.
Boss player, what's going on, man?
Happy holidays to you.
You have a good Christmas, boss player?
Oh, yes, sir, I did. I had to go and give my son that Xbox One, but
Woo!
I managed to find him one. So he's been NBA 2K and ever since Christmas morning.
Oh yeah, I bet you have to peel him away from the screen. So what you got for us this morning, BP?
Man, I'm getting ready to go later on this afternoon. Head up to FG Clark Activities and sit down and watch some of this good high school basketball we got going on in the city right now.
Great. What is there any matchup in particular you're kind of going there to see? You're surveying the action, or what's been your take on it so far?
I'm going to survey some of the action and some of the keys that I've been reading about. I'd say it's a 15-team field, and of those 15 people, teams, I'm sorry. I think it's about 6 or 7, about a half dozen kids that are legitimate D1 basketball players here in the city, and I think we've had a resurgence locally with this basketball over the past couple of years, you know.
Yeah, you're right.
No, I'm in agreement with you. Baton Rouge, I'll tell you, if you don't pay close attention, it's easy to kind of overlook how much talent comes out of the Baton Rouge area. But on the hardwood, I mean, Baton Rouge is really where it's at. I'd even dare to say more so than you find in New Orleans.
Right.
Well, what else you got, boss player? We got a lot of stuff on the sports buffet today. So, anything else you want to weigh in on? We got the LSU getting ready to play Notre Dame. We're just talking about that, and the Saints debacle, and anything else. It's your buffet. We're just here to serve.
But as far as the Notre Dame game goes, I mean, we've had about roughly about 3.5 weeks or so, 4 weeks. The Texas A&M game or the Arkansas game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think now is the time where Les decides on who's going to be his future quarterback for next season. So I think he should give each quarterback a equal amount of snaps, and pull out the magic card or the red card from under them and play.
I hear you.
Who you like? Who you picking?
I'm gonna roll with the home team on this one here. Everett Golson and whoever the other kid is, he gonna share snaps with. I mean, coming out the SEC, I don't think there's any other conference with the speed and the power that we have. So unless they come up with a few gadget plays to misdirect the defense, I'm looking for LSU to win by, I'm going to say 5 points or less.
Oh, okay, I can wrap my mind around that, especially the way LSU plays ball.
Good.
All right, BP, you got anything else for us, man?
Bowl game score, LSU 23, Notre Dame 20.
All right, well, let's hope you're right. We can bring in a Happy New Year, boss player. I thank you for the call and appreciate you listening and your regular patronage. You guys are the reason why we're here.
Right.
I'll tell you what, I don't think I actually made a pick, but I pretty much alluded. I expect LSU to win the football game. Boss player said 5 points or less. I'm thinking more in the neighborhood of a touchdown. I think they'll be in a position to where they can probably run the clock out, but I don't think it's going to be a big win. I don't think they're going to blow them away. This is a team, LSU is, I think they're going to win the game by running the football, controlling the line of scrimmage. I mean, it sounds very boring, but it's very effective when you're playing a team that's kind of at your level or maybe a few steps down, and I think that's what's going to happen. 23-20 wouldn't shock me.
Right.
It would not shock me, but I just, the way Notre Dame has struggled so badly against the likes of Northwestern and people of that ilk, I think LSU, like I said, I think they might put some distance between themselves and the Irish before the end of the game.
Well, we'll see. I think also that kind of gives Notre Dame a little bit of an advantage. I will give them a little bit of an advantage by having this long break to be able to, heal yourself with injuries, be able to get a different game plan to be able to, because like you said, they failed at the end of the season so bad, but now with 3 weeks or 3.5 weeks to be able to practice and players to be able to, heal some of the little nagging injuries. And the same with LSU. So now this is pretty much an even playing field. It's like a new season almost in a sense.
It is, and I think I do expect them to be motivated. I think Nashville is going to be, anybody who gets to travel, I think you're going to have a good time. I've never been to Nashville myself, but everybody has told me that Nashville is an absolutely gorgeous place. I think from what I saw in the weather report, it's going to be just right for football, like somewhere in the 60s. That should be a pretty good game. That is going to start at 2 o'clock on ESPN on Tuesday. So, if you might have the flu coming, might have to tell the boss you need to get out of work early if you didn't take the day off.
That's what I did. I called in the other day, and when I called the phone, my boss asked them, I'm not going to be able to come in today. And they was like, today your day off, it's Saturday. I said, oh, well, my bad.
Like Will Smith.
Back on Monday.
Like Will Smith, what you talking about? You're off. Today is Saturday. Remember that? So, what was that, Girls of the World, Nothing But Trouble or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's going way back to the old school.
Way back now.
Shoot.
Just
but
remember my rhyme.
Yeah, oh yeah, and I'll tell you, many a day. Real quick before we move on from LSU, just wanted to talk about just how this defense has developed. This is going back to after Mississippi State put that butt whipping on them. The defense has allowed 7 points against New Mexico State. They got hammered against Auburn pretty badly, and then from there they beat Florida 30-27, but they were on. That game had some quirky bounces. That was more the offense giving Florida a short field, and allowed 3 points to Kentucky, 7 points to Ole Miss. In regulation, 13 points to Alabama. Of course, they lost in overtime. 17 to Arkansas, 17 to Texas A&M. So you're looking at a team that for 5 straight weeks has allowed in regulation 17 points or fewer against some formidable SEC competition.
Yeah.
And if you're going to stop the likes of Alabama and Texas, Ole Miss, and bottle up teams like that, I think Notre Dame's going to have a bit of a hard time. So that's my last 2 cents, I suppose, on the Music City Bowl. We have some other bowl action coming up in the next few days. Of course, a big one coming up near the end of the week, and we'll get to that momentarily. But as far as SEC schools go, we also have the Belk Bowl, which will be coming up later on December 30th. That'll be at 5:30 Eastern time. I believe that's an ESPN game. That is an ESPN game. You have University of Georgia had a disappointing season. I think there were some high expectations. You had some whispers that they could certainly be a contender for the college football playoff. I think at the very least, people expected them to really win the division, at least put in a serious bid for the division, and neither of those happened. They had some disappointing losses. Todd Gurley missing some time, both between the autograph scandal, if you want to call it that, and then the injury. Tough year for Georgia. They take their act to Louisville. Louisville ranked 21st, Georgia 13th. Louisville had, I think, a quality year, 9-3. I think they won the games people thought they'd win. I think they lost the games people thought they would lose. I think you have a good Louisville team playing a Georgia team that has, they should feel like they have something to prove going into the offseason.
I think so, too. Good matchup. Georgia. Man, it's hard to put your finger on those guys. This guy has a recruiting class, Mark Rick, down there that comes through Georgia. They always have a top quality picks. I mean, blue chippers and everything that come in. They look like they let Missouri come in and just take that side of the conference. I don't understand that, but to me, they underachieved.
I never saw that coming.
Mark Rick, he's been holding on to his job. He's actually been on the bubble for the last couple of years.
He stay on the bubble.
He stay on the bubble, but they seem like they can never get past. And even South Carolina is kind of came when he finally, what's his name, went over there and coached the team.
Spurrier.
When Spurrier went and coached that team, it's like that division looked like it was Georgia's division. And then South Carolina, like they came in and kind of started dominating it a little bit. And then he came in with a few blue chippers, but he never could get past. I don't know. I think he went to one SEC championship game.
He's been to a couple. He's been to a couple. They beat LSU in 2005, and then we played. LSU played Georgia in 2011. That was the year LSU started off 13-0 and won the SEC.
Right.
And Georgia went that year. I feel like I'm leaving a year out. I really do. But no, I think you're right. I think that's it. They've won twice. They've won the SEC under Mark Richt. I believe they've won the SEC Eastern Division 2 times.
Who they have? Stafford then.
And 05. No, it could have been Matt. That was David. Was it David Green? Can't remember. Oh, I'm sorry, but yes, in 2011 wasn't Stafford. Stafford was in the NFL by then. I cannot remember who the QB was. It was somebody good, too. Had a great year. Piled up a lot of numbers. His name is escaping me. Like, if I hear it, it's going to click just like that. But, look, Georgia's had some squads in the past, and, they're going to do one of two things. They're either going to roll over and not get up for this game and let Louisville earn a strike on the SEC, or I think more likely they're going to they're going to show what they could have done this year at the expense of a Louisville team that's they're all right. You know what I mean?
All right, I give them credit too because they lost their coach to Texas this year, and for them to be able to come back. How many games they won? 9 games.
9-3.
It was up on Florida State, 21-0, and Florida State ended up coming back on it. They was ranked then. I think Louisville.
That's correct. No, Louisville's been ranked all season, I believe.
All season. So kudos to that program to be able to lose a coach and come back with a first year head coach and accomplish and get to a bowl game and get 9 wins. So, that's a hell of an accomplishment. And
you definitely touched on they definitely made Florida State sweat, and we'll see if that's going to happen later this week. On Wednesday, New Year's Eve, the Peach Bowl. Ole Miss ranked number 9, going to number 6 TCU. These are two teams. You want to talk about teams that are going to have vinegar in their mouth or be ticked off, so to speak. It's a family show, but man, these are two teams that have just the bitter taste of disappointment in their mouth. You look at Ole Miss, and they were ranked number 1 at one time, and they got just smothered by LSU, literally like a boa constrictor. And then, of course, they got smashed after beating Alabama, and then, of course, they got smashed the following week and knocked out of had any chance of contention taken away from them. I'm sorry, and then on the other hand, the other side of the coin, we have TCU, who, I don't know about that jive that the Big 12 commissioner put forth. I actually was very confused when he said that. I mean, I've taken calculus and statistics, and I can keep up with some complicated stuff, but I didn't know what this man was talking about. As far as I'm concerned, in the world of Eric Hatfield, TCU was the runner-up in the Big 12. Baylor beat them, but they tried to spin it to try to sleaze their way in the college football playoffs. And of course, the very intelligent people on the college football committee weren't fooled one bit. But nonetheless, TCU has definitely got a bitter taste in their mouth, and it's going to be a good Peach Bowl. You have 2 top 10 teams in the Peach Bowl. I can't remember the last time that was the case. That's going to be a very good game on New Year's Eve. I'm going to go back. I don't think I actually said I'm taking Georgia in the Georgia-Louisville game. This one, I don't know. I'm going to take Ole Miss just because I think when it comes to close matchups, I think power rules the day. And I do think Ole Miss has a stronger defense and running game. They're not going to have Laquan Treadwell. That's going to hurt. After the injury that he had in the game where he hurt himself at the goal line. Was it Mississippi State? I think it was. But anyway, it was Auburn. It was the Auburn game. Yep. So that's going to be tough. But I still like Ole Miss. I think Bo Wallace gets a chance to go out on a high, maybe do a little audition, maybe get himself a job somewhere in the NFL. I think he has a chance to make a roster, a practice squad. He's got the tools. So I like Ole Miss in this game. I think Hugh Freeze, the job he's done at that program in just a couple of years is incredible. He has made them go from a cellar dweller to you now have a division with every team from top to bottom could be in the top 10. You watch how Arkansas is improving now. Mm-hmm. So he's done a heck of a job there. I'm going to lean towards Ole Miss in that game.
Ole Miss, man, what a great game! This game here is really compared to the championship bowl games in the top 4 bowls.
It's going to be I expect a good competition.
Ole Miss, wow! TCU was ranked number 3 before the last selections came out, and they end up getting bumped out from 3 down to 6, I want to say, or 5. I agree with you, though, Eric. I think that for the Big 12 championship, I think that the people like the TCU, the way that they style of play a little better. So they tried to spin it a little bit to try to get them to be the representative of the Big 12, when actually in head-to-head, they lost against Baylor.
Yeah.
So, you was up 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and you lost.
Right.
So...
I think the thing with that, going back to the Baylor thing, I know this one's been beaten to death, but we didn't talk about it too much on Louisiana All American Sports because we've been more SEC centric. But since we have an SEC Big 12 matchup, hey, why not? I'll tell you. I think through the eye test, it was clear that TCU was a better team in spite of losing to Baylor. They knew they weren't going to sneak Baylor in the college football playoff, right. So they had to contort and do this co-championship nonsense and everything they could to try to push TCU in, but they weren't. They didn't fool me. I'm just at a local radio station. You think you're going to fool the likes of I know Archie Manning stepped down, but all those intelligent people on the committee and conference commissioners and a committee that selected the likes of Condoleezza Rice. You think you're fooling those people with that bull jive? No, They weren't falling for that. So Big 12's got to get a championship game. They know it, and that was the difference. That's what got Ohio State, and I think rightfully so, into the dance.
But on this game here, this is going to actually tell what TCU is all about. I'm going to go with TCU in this game, and the reason why I think they have a lot to prove. They're going against the SEC team, Ole Miss, which has a dominant defense. TCU, dominant offense, score a lot of points. I think TCU wants to prove that they can beat an SEC team, so I think they're going to be highly, highly motivated to beat Ole Miss. Ole Miss defense. Defense does win championships, but what tipped the scale for me was Treadwell. So when Treadwell went down, this guy here impressed me a lot. I mean,
he's a monster. And the quarterback for TCU, look, he was a borderline Heisman candidate.
Exactly.
Boykin, I want to say his last name is always.
Boykin.
Yeah, I always often forget it, but
exactly. So it's going to be, and I think Treadwell was actually right behind what's his name with Alabama.
Talking about
receiver.
I almost called him. Oh my God.
Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I almost said Armani Cooper. Remember that it was a receiver back in the days. Played Armani. I want to call him Greek. Armani Toomer.
Armani Toomer.
Yeah, played at Michigan.
Giants,
He played for the Giants for a while too. Yeah. But Cooper, Amari Cooper was. You're right. It was a 1-2.
Treadwell was right there with Amari Cooper.
Both making incredible plays. Exactly. Both making incredible catches. I mean, when Treadwell went down, that made it kind of a no-brainer.
So I think that would tip the scale with me. So I'm going to lean with TCU this game.
Yeah, I think I think it's going to come Trevon Boykin. That was his name. it's going to come down to that battle in the trenches. It's going to come down to that battle in the trenches. And I think if they can keep Ole Miss at bay, if they can contain that defensive line, I think TCU has a shot. On the other hand, if Ole Miss can get pressure without having to blitz, it's going to be very difficult for TCU to work their magic. That's what I think. Football is often determined that way. That's going to be a very interesting game, though, Joker. That's going to be some good watching. If you have nothing better to do, hey, get your popcorn and maybe get your money and your whiskey and pull up to the TV and watch. That's going to be a really good game. Another one, the Orange Bowl. Another matchup that's going to be compelling. You have number 7 Ole Miss, number 12 Georgia Tech. Now Georgia Tech, they made a fool out of me when I thought they would, I thought they would. Oh yeah, I thought they'd be. Well, they did. Look, they took care of Georgia, and I'm not shocked by that. I thought they'd be able to really hang with Florida State, and the score was close. But I mean, Florida State really contained that triple option that Georgia Tech runs so well. I don't think that's good. If it didn't work against Florida State's defense is average at best. I think they're probably a little mediocre, although they seem to play better recent weeks. Mississippi State's defense isn't going to fall for that. I don't think if they. I'm kind of using. I know there's no transitive theory like in algebra that doesn't really necessarily apply to football. But I'm just thinking if Florida State was able to contain them enough, you have Dak Prescott, who I think is going to try to lift his stock some more going into the 2015 season.
It dropped a little bit.
It did, yeah. He definitely, when the spotlight was at its brightest, he showed he had some growing to do.
Right.
And that's what college football does. I'm going to tip towards Mississippi State in this game. I think they will be able to contain Georgia Tech enough to beat them. But again, a very good interconference matchup. Very good interconference matchup between these two teams.
I think they did a good job. NCAA did a good job with these games.
They did.
I got to give it.
Yeah, the bowl committees did their homework and they got it right this time.
Right, they really did, and it's very exciting because it's the first time with the playoff system and everything. And man, I know the ratings are going to be through the roof. This game right here, man. Georgia Tech, that triple option, man, I'm so impressed with that, the way these guys run that ball and the way that they control, but they got to be able to punch the ball into the end zone. I think that's what stopped them with Florida State, because they racked up a lot of rushing yards on Florida State. But when it came down to like red zone,
that real estate gets tighter.
Right, it gets tighter.
They're not going to let you run, and you only have so much room to pass.
Right, and it's like, trying to do the same thing over and over, especially against a good team. Sooner or later, they're going to make some type of adjustment. And that's what Florida State did in that second half. They started to just, stop that triple option. Just, hey, look, don't even worry about the pass. I don't think they only threw maybe 3 or 4 times that whole game.
Yeah, they outcoached them in that game.
Against this team, Mississippi State, Dak Prescott is the wild card for me. So I'm going to go with Mississippi State, I think. Not only is he just as talented, maybe not as talented as Jameis Winston, but he has that running element, and I think that's what's going to give him by Georgia Tech.
He can run and he can throw.
Exactly. So,
and I agree with you. I think that could be the X factor in that game. Another good bowl game involving an SEC school. The Auburn Tigers will ranked number 19 will face a number 18 Wisconsin in the Outback Bowl. Now, one might have said before that that Wisconsin. With their running game with Melvin Gordon, that Auburn might have some trouble with him, but boy, did Ohio State just completely undress Wisconsin. I think I don't know who to pick in this game. I almost want to drink the Kool-Aid and go back to Wisconsin, but Ohio State. You ever watch those old Looney Tunes cartoons where like Sylvester tries to get to the bird and that bulldog comes out and pulls out the 2x4 and just starts whipping Sylvester's behind you? Bam, bam. That's what happened with Wisconsin. It's just hard for me to look at them the same and expect them to beat an SEC school. By the way, 225-343-9927, 225-343-9927 to join in. It's kind of like how someone just gets shamed and you can't even look at them the same way. One of your boys gets his butt kicked in a fight by a girl at school. You can't even dap him up. You got to look away. And I don't know, man. God, I'm gonna let you take the lead on this one because I'm still processing this one.
Yeah, it's head scratching. To me, I think Wisconsin with Melvin Gordon, man, what a year that he has had this year. But man, when you got trounced like that with Ohio State, you let LSU beat you. So how do I think you're gonna have anything to do with Auburn and the way Auburn was? I just can't see. you having anything.
And they're traveling pretty far, too.
Oh, yeah. Then LSU came back and beat you in the first game of the year. All you have is Melvin Gordon. And he didn't even do his thing in the last game. Man, just let Ohio State with a third-string quarterback put that many points on you in the championship game at the, you guys, it's just, I almost want to say you didn't even deserve to go to a bowl after that performance. For real, you say, we had y'all penciled in, but after that last performance,
what we're gonna do is we're gonna send you to the Boudreaux's Butt Paste Bowl down in Thibodeau. You gonna play Nichols.
Right, you know what I mean?
Bring your umbrella.
Right. So I just that bowl game doesn't really interest me as much. Of course, it does a little bit because of the SEC team that's in there. But Wisconsin, I just lost all faith in it.
Yeah, I can't pick Wisconsin and go. If I go into a coma and just missed the Big Ten championship altogether, I would have picked Wisconsin. But no, not after what I saw. That was their manhood got tooken, not taken. It got tooken in that game. And now for the big ones. I mean, the ones that that the nation is waiting on. In the Rose Bowl, you have number 2 Oregon State. I did not just say that. Number 2 Oregon. That was a big slip up. Oregon Ducks playing the Florida State Seminoles, who are ranked number 3. I heard something on the radio this morning. I just couldn't believe. I had to do a double take. I was listening to Mel Kiper's show on ESPN Radio, Dari and Mel or something like that, and I heard that there was a 9-point spread in that game, that Oregon was favored by 9 points. I just couldn't believe that. That just seems awfully hefty. But
I knew it was 7 at one time.
I think what he said, that, and I could have heard wrong because it was in passing, but I thought what I heard him say was that it actually got up to 9. And what he says is, look, it was head-scratching, but when Vegas comes out with big spreads, it's usually for a reason.
Yes, exactly.
And, I mean, Vegas certainly wasn't, they didn't build all that stuff by losing money, but first of all, I'm going to go, I guess I'll call this my upset special. First of all, I think Florida State's going to win the football game.
There you go.
I think they're going to win the game. I think that slap in the face, not to mention the fact that I think Jimbo Fisher and Florida State, they got a lot to prove. They haven't lost a game in 2 years, and I'm not impressed. I'm sorry, in the Pac-12, defense is optional. Well, you can't have, now, and they've gotten much better over the years, but I mean, I don't think they're going to, optional defensive conferences, that's not the formula for beating a guy like Jameis Winston. I think they're going to give them a dose of something they didn't expect. Now, on the other hand, I don't know how well, I think it's going to be a shootout because I don't think Florida State can really stop Marcus Mariota. It might be a matter of who has the ball last. I just think that I like Jimbo Fisher from the standpoint of coaching, and I like Jameis Winston from the standpoint of quarterbacking, in spite of the outstanding year that Mariota had. I think the Seminoles win this game. I certainly would bet my money on them plus 9 points.
Oh, yeah, most definitely, Eric. You hit it right on the head. With me, of course, I picked Florida State last week to win the whole thing. I kind of wanted to just put all my chips on the table. I'm going with Jameis Winston. From what this guy has showed me, I don't really go off stats too much. I just go off the eye test, and I go off pressure situation, and he always seems to step up in pressure situations. When the world is against him, his team plays for him so hard. His coach is behind him. It doesn't matter what everybody else in the country says about Jameis Winston. That team down there loves him, and they play for him. Also, Florida State has probably some of the best athletes in the state of Florida, just like Texas and LSU. So I think that's overlooked. So I think that the speed of Mariota and that Oregon defense, Florida State has seen it before. They've seen it in practice. They've seen it with their recruits. They're ready for something like that. This is a big game. Being disrespected, the defending national champ, the defending Heisman Trophy winner. Well, of course, Mariota has it. The last 2 Heisman Trophy winners are going to face off with each other. I think it's only the second time this has happened.
I believe so.
Real big game. Florida has to come from the East Coast all the way out west to California. That's a little bit of an advantage for Oregon.
And they got them third, and they're undefeated.
And they got them third undefeated. All of that, I think, is going to come together. And I think Jameis Winston has a big game and solidifies his position as the top quarterback in college football.
They're going to get a chance to do that talking on the field. That game is New Year's night. That's going to be 4:00. Our time on ESPN, and the Sugar Bowl down in New Orleans, 7:30 on ESPN. Personally, I mean, honestly, I know Alabama's #1, and I guess that's why they have him for the primetime slot. I wish they flip it around, though, because I think that the Rose Bowl game is going to be the bigger game. Alabama #1, #4 Ohio State. I think Ohio State's gotten a great run. I think that just their very presence in the playoff is kind of like their championship, because I think it comes to a crashing halt. I think Alabama mops the floor with Ohio State. I think you're going to see Amari Cooper and Blake Sims hook up a whole bunch of times. I think you're going to see T.J. Yeldon and Derek Kelly just run over Ohio State's defense, although they did show they were capable of stopping a tough running back in Melvin Gordon, but they haven't faced an offensive line the likes of which Alabama has. And I think their quarterback, I forgot the kid's name, the third stringer, I think he's not going to know what hit him when that defense gets a hold of him. I think Alabama runs away with this game.
Wow. You're going to be surprised at what I picked. This game, I think that don't be surprised with Urban Meyer coaching ability. He's not a likable guy. I'm not really a big Urban Meyer fan.
He's not a likable guy.
What he showed me.
They're not there to be nice.
To go into that program and do what he does. He had one undefeated season when he first got there, his first year at Ohio State.
Right, it was the Tressel with the probation that,
right.
Yeah.
And they wasn't qualified to get to a bowl game. Alabama wins, but it's not going to be a blowout. I think that the third string quarterback at the end of the game it's going to be tight. I think in the fourth quarter is going to be probably tied, or it's going to be Ohio State has a position either to win or close to win. And I think that their quarterback and the coaching, and I think Alabama prevails by the skin of their teeth. But I think they do win.
Well, look, they've proven that they can reload, because when Braxton Miller went down, there was almost like
exactly
like the sky is falling, and they kept on trucking along. The herb factor could make this game more competitive.
And see why I analyze it like that, and the reason why I look at it like that is because of the time period that happens before the game starts. It would be a little different if they had to play this Saturday, then play Alabama the next Saturday. Then, you don't have as much time to prepare. But now Urban Meyer and these guys are going to prepare. These games are going to be close. There's a lot of preparation that goes on both sides. So I don't think it's going to really be a blowout in either game. These are top 4 teams in the country. Just don't be surprised. Everybody gets kind of, we get mesmerized by Alabama's dominance and the way that, we SEC have done Ohio State before in previous times.
And when Ohio State's been favored, too, that was the funny thing.
Right. So I just think it's going to be closer than what people think.
Cardale Jones, that's the kid's name. Look, it's a big we'll see, and I guess we'll have a whole lot of discussion for I Told You So next week. Is we'll definitely one thing's for sure, we definitely didn't match up our playing cards beforehand, and that to me is what makes it fun. And we'll see who gets it right and who might have lost their shirt at the casino. But right now we'll go back to last week for the final edition of 2014 of I Told You So.
I told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? 'Cause I told you. And when did I tell you? A long time ago. And what did I say will happen when I told you? Exactly what just happened.
It is going to be a shootout tomorrow. 56-55, take that over. Because they're going to, I wouldn't be surprised if one team scored 56 points.
I don't really know who I want to pick. In a way, I want to pick Atlanta.
For that reason, I think it's going to be a shootout, but I think the home crowd and Atlanta's deficits will be just enough for the Saints to push over the edge, win that game, and all but wrap up the division. Possibly wrap up the division, depending on Cleveland and Carolina, but win that game on Sunday. I'm taking the Saints.
I'm taking the Saints also.
I'm going to go with the Saints just because it was a home game. I'm feeling very uncomfortable about this pick. But I'm going to go with the Saints.
The Cleveland Browns, as they will travel to Charlotte, and Johnny Football will take his money act on the road to face the Panthers in Carolina. I'm going to take the Panthers only because they seem a little more stable of late, notwithstanding their quarterback situation. Cleveland was all over the place. I do expect Johnny Manziel to play better than he did against the Bengals.
No.
Carolina minus 3.5, over and under 41. Cleveland and the 3.
And the 3.
Who do you think will win the football game?
Carolina probably.
I'm going with Carolina.
And I think the Steelers are going to win. I think they're going to win comfortably. I think they're going to beat Kansas City and probably put that head to bed.
I think that Kansas City is going to win. And I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs. This is my upset pick for the week.
And we have Indianapolis and Dallas. My bad, that's a primetime game. I'm going to blow through that very quickly. I think the Cowboys will win that game. Indianapolis doesn't have a whole lot to play for, so I like Dallas, even minus the points.
Yeah!
Who you like?
I like Dallas.
Like Dallas? I like the Colts.
Now, for the big game, the Seattle Seahawks have to go out to the desert to face the Arizona Cardinals. But I don't know how much whispering. He's going to have to do some whispering and shouting. I'm taking the Legion of Boom in this matchup on the road in Arizona.
Yeah!
Me too. Seattle all day long.
Yeah!
I like Arizona, man. I like Arizona.
We're talking Arizona Cardinals, not the Diamondbacks.
I like Fitzgerald.
Philadelphia travels to FedEx Field to play the Washington Redskins. I think Philadelphia wins that game. But the spread is 10 points. I often say big home underdogs, heavy home underdogs I usually take. Washington is so dysfunctional that I wouldn't bet a nickel on this one.
I'm going to take Philly.
I'm going to take Washington. RG3 is on the resurgence. He's trying to prove himself. This is going to be the game.
Yeah!
San Francisco hosting the San Diego Superchargers. San Diego in the game, and San Diego +3.
San Diego.
Yep.
San Diego Chargers.
So yeah, a lot going on. The Arizona Diamondbacks did not show up to play the Seattle Mariners in University of Phoenix Stadium. It was that was the Arizona Cardinals, and boy, Marshawn Lynch put the icing on the cake. It was unbelievable. Did you see that run? The earthquake. They call it the Earthquake 2.0 run. 4 broken tackles, and he got through the defensive line between 3 linemen, and nobody touched him.
Right.
Like literally didn't get a finger on him. That was unbelievable.
And it's look like when he runs, when he bumps at somebody, look like they always fall back about 5 feet, and he, keep going.
It's like they forget how to tackle.
And did you know that they fined him for jumping in the end
Well,
zone?
that was something else they fined him for. So we're going to talk about the boys of the NFL shortly. We'd like to remind you that coming up in about 10 minutes, we have Noel Jackson with Music Satisfaction. Coming up at 12 noon on WHYR. We have a call on the line. Is that Professor?
Yeah.
Well, good morning, Professor. How's it going?
Indeed, gentlemen, it is I. and I see you have a series of hysterical comedians. Uncle Ken Bubba is not the only comedian in the family with that acrimonious pun statement about the Diamondbacks. Gentlemen, top of the evening to you.
Top of the evening, Professor, man. We miss your lesson, man.
Yes, indeed.
I'm looking forward to that lesson today, but I know I'll get to you.
Well, Professor, you came on board just in time, man. As in the final 10 minutes of the show, you came in the right segment as we are getting ready to discuss the final week of the regular season in the National Football League.
Indeed.
So in the final week 17 of the regular season, there are a lot of playoff spots that are up for grabs. In the AFC West, that Saturday action last week, that late game turned out to be one of the best of the week as the Chargers came back from 21 points down in an instant classic to defeat the San Francisco 49ers in overtime. I think their confidence is swelling right now. They have to go to Arrowhead to play the Chiefs, but they win their in, and in spite of Phillip Rivers and his herniated disc in his back. Kansas City is going to be starting Chase Daniel. Alex Smith is out for that game. That in and of itself, not to mention how well the Chargers have played, I'm taking the San Diego Chargers in that contest to win and advance to the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they kind of concede in that game by they putting Chase Daniel in. Phillip Rivers does this every year, it seems like. I mean, this guy here is pretty resilient. He does a good job, but he has to show me in the postseason that he can do that.
Well, you know, Professor, go ahead.
That's right. I'm going to take San Diego also. I don't think that Chase Daniels is battle-proven. We're going to go with San Diego. As you say, the Superchargers.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's going to be another instance where Chase Daniel lets down the entire state of Missouri, and Kansas City ends up out of the playoffs. They would need a lot to go right even if they won that game.
Right.
The Buffalo Bills have to travel out to Foxborough to play the New England Patriots. The Patriots, I believe, are perfect at Foxborough this year, but they have nothing to play for. But that being said, I wouldn't put it past Coach Belichick. He's going to put Jimmy Garoppolo out there, and Jimmy Garoppolo's got a lot to prove. And the little flash that he got in that trouncing on Monday Night Football against the Chiefs, he looked all right.
Who are you picking?
I'm going to let y'all go first because I'll let y'all go first.
I'm picking the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills is man. They have a pass rush out of this world. They have more sacks than any team in the NFL. I'm going with the Buffalo Bills. Tom Terrific is not playing. Oh, Buffalo Bills all day. Huh?
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
He's not talking about the Buffalo Bills with O.J. Simpson.
Not the Buffalo Braves. Not the Braves. The Buffalo Bills.
I'm going with Belichick at the house, man. Belichick at the house.
You know, I'm going to lean towards the Professor ever so slightly. I was really torn on this. I think Buffalo's problem is I just don't know that Kyle Orton is going to have what it takes to go on the road and beat New England in Foxborough. Like I said, Garoppolo is going to be motivated. Now, look, Buffalo's secondary can confuse a young quarterback. So, look, I would not fall out of my chair if the Bills won that game, but I still think with Belichick, his ego, and you have Garoppolo who wants to campaign for that job in a couple of years, I'm going to go with the Patriots in that one.
Yes, sir.
Right.
The NFC South Championship game. Oh, boy. The Atlanta Falcons host the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers have put up one heck of a run. You realize that within 9 games, between October the 12th between September 21st and November 30th, the Carolina Panthers were 1-8-1. They have won 3 straight and are now 1 win away or a tie away from winning the NFC South Division. But what I saw last week in the Superdome with Atlanta, notwithstanding all the Saints' problems, was what I expected to see from the Atlanta Falcons. That was the Falcons team I kind of expected to see all year. They're in the Georgia Dome. It is Matt Ryan doesn't lose a lot of games there in spite of how terrible they've been. The Falcons are also perfect against division opponents this year, and Cam Newton is still not 100% from that car accident. Close game. I like the Falcons to win the game. Not sure what the spread is, but I'm going to take the Falcons in a close matchup.
Well, man, I really didn't want to talk about this game.
I understand.
Yeah, you understand the reason why. Atlanta seems to have all of the advantage right now, and Julio Jones is just, oh my man, he's just unbelievable.
And he will play.
He's supposed to be playing. He's kind of banged up a little bit. All of the signs point to Atlanta, but I'm going to be like Professor. I'm on some hating today. So, you know what I mean? So, hold it real. A lot of homeboys, they're Atlanta Falcons fans. They've been rubbing it in with the Saints and all this. So, I'm going with Cam. Oh, Cam.
Hold on a little. What was the name of that group? That was Guy. That's it. Yeah.
Cam. But I'm going to go with Cam. Cam Newton, baby. Let's go, Carolina.
Professor?
Wow. I was initially leaning towards Cam.
Joker talked you out of it.
I don't know. I'm kind of beefing with Joker. I don't want to take Carolina since I have some tumultuous relationship with my cohort Joker.
Well, I tell you what thing. You take Atlanta. You take Cam, and I'll take Atlanta.
No. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say if Atlanta can rattle Cam, if Atlanta's defense can rattle Cam, confuse him, and possibly flush him out of the pocket, I think that Atlanta could do it. But if Cam comes and has his A game and turns into Superman from Clark Kent, Carolina's going to win. So I'm just going to remain neutral. But I think Atlanta's defense is the X factor.
Yeah, Atlanta dead last against the pass. That will open up opportunities. It's going to be a matter of if Matt Ryan can will them. And
that's the difference, I think, with Carolina. Their defense is not the Saints. The Saints has a horrible defense, so Atlanta looks good against the Saints. But Luke
Right.
Kuechly and Carolina has a defense.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
they're gonna have
Norman
to-
Harper, and yeah.
That's right.
Okay, the New Orleans Saints travel to play the Buccaneers. I like the Saints. There we
yeah.
go.
On to
Joker.
the next one. Tampa Bay.
Oh, you're taking the Buccaneers.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm taking Tampa Bay. Just on some hating stuff. Just because I'm mad at the Saints.
Oh,
I'm
me
taking
too.
Tampa Bay.
Professor?
Wow. The Saints are going to blow the doors on Tampa Bay.
I think so. I think,
Well,
first of all,
we'll see.
Drew Brees is only about 300. He is fewer than 400 yards away from having his fourth straight 5,000-yard passing season. No other player in the history of the league has done it more than once. He's about to do it 4 straight times, and I do think the Saints. When you lose like they did last week, you want to put a hurting on somebody, and the Buccaneers are ripe for it. So
We'll see.
and they will rally around Brees, but we'll find out. I mean, it ain't gonna make much of a difference, but I don't think they want to go. I don't think Sean Payton wants to have his first ever double-digit losing season. That would just be embarrassing. The Detroit Lions travel to Lambeau to play the Green Bay Packers. That's going to be the the afternoon game on Fox. That'll be 3:25 our time. Detroit is having an excellent season. Their defense has been outstanding, but they have not won a game at Lambeau since I want to say it's 1991, if I remember correctly, maybe 92. It was when I was in high school. 91 sounds about right. It was the year they went to the NFC Championship game. I don't think it's going to change. I think Aaron Rodgers defends the frozen tundra. I do expect it to be a competitive game, and I don't expect the lights to light up. I do think it's going to come down to defense, and that's where Green Bay has a bit of an Achilles heel at times, but they've tightened up a lot recently. I still like the Packers in the game. I already know who Professor's going with.
Yeah, we already know Professor going with. I'm getting my pick out the way, so I'm going to let him go ahead.
And Eric, I'm glad Eric recanted his statement and said at times. See, you have to listen. He said that the defense has been our Achilles heel at times. I was listening to Eric very precisely. I'm glad he said at times, so I'm going to let him off the hook. Aaron Rodgers goes out big in this game, goes out, puts Tampa Bay in their place.
Tampa Bay.
And Detroit, and makes them bow down. Green Bay in a blowout, man. Green Bay in a blowout.
I'll say Green Bay. I got to give it to you. Aaron Rodgers playing MVP status. I'm going to go with Green Bay. Not blowout status, but, at least by 4, I say 4 or 5.
We got about 2 minutes left. We have the Cincinnati Bengals. This is going to be one of the probably best games of the week as we brace for the final game of the 2014 NFL regular season. It is Sunday Night Football on NBC.
I'm just going to go ahead and make a pick since we're getting ready to close out here.
Cincinnati
Bengals, Jeremy Hill.
Cincinnati and Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm obsessed. I'm totally obsessed and impressed with Cincinnati.
Me too. I'm on board.
I really like them a lot, man. And they impressed me the other night in what they did with Manning. I'm impressed.
Cincinnati is a little bit of a different team when they're not at Paul Brown Stadium. They're at Heinz Field, and I'm gonna tell you, Ben Roethlisberger has caught. I mean, he's caught fire, like gasoline in a pack of matches. He has been in fuego lately. Listen to the point output of the Steelers of late. They have racked up. The Steelers racked up 42 against Cincinnati the last go-round with their vaunted defense. That was at Paul Brown. Put up 32 against the Saints, 27 on Tennessee, 43 against Baltimore, 51 against Indianapolis. I'm taking the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay.
That is all the time we have, as we have Noel Jackson coming up in just a moment. Any parting shots, fellas, as we get ready to roll out of here?
Joker?
Parting shots just out to Baton Rouge, and everybody have a safe and happy holiday.
And I want to say quickly, Happy Kwanzaa, which is what I want to discuss today. Next week, I will share the history and the total breakdown of Kwanzaa, the principles, and so on and so forth. Enjoy your day, people. Let's watch some football.
Have a good afternoon.
Hail to the King and Lords of Lords. May He protect us from the evil. Hail to the King. Lords of Lords, may He protect us from evil.